Road 96. I've actually realized that this is my 5th review of a story-based game in a row. Now, I sure do enjoy the genre, but this was not on purpose. And I do classify sports story as one, as the sports are really a secondary to the gameplay. In this game, you're going to have to get a few teenagers to the border, which could be up to 2,000 miles away. The gimmick in this one is that the stories are random, and no one will ever have the same journey. It boasts that it has over 148,000 different versions that you could experience. Now, there are required stories that you're going to run into, but these are randomly plugged into your journey, and you're never going to know when you're going to experience them. Now, this does cause some issues with storytelling, when it randomly picks from like 30 to 40 pre-made stories to tell. Like, for example, I was in a car that I stole at the end of one of them, but then it cuts to me walking in the beginning of the next one. Where did my car go? Did it break down? Run out of gas? How about any explanation here? If they showed it in the background, it wouldn't have been so bad, but they just didn't bother, which was annoying. The story is that you're a teenager who's running away to the border because the country that you're in is horrible and you want to escape. If you're caught, you're going to be sent to a pit in order to live out your days mining. How you will end up will be up to luck and your wits. When you make it across the border or get caught or even die, the chapter ends and you start up with another teenager to try and get across the border. Rinse and repeat. Each teenager consists of a chapter, and it took me 8 chapters to get to the end of the game. There was one chapter where I died fairly quickly and I wasn't expecting it, and that's when I started to be much more careful in the next attempts. As you make your way to the border, you're going to run into 7 people. And this isn't just some small area you're running into them. This whole game takes place in thousands of miles. And you keep meeting the same 7 people. It was nuts! These people will all have a story to tell, and they're all connected in ways you might not expect. Some of them you might really like, and others you won't. There will occasionally be mini games to play, and they were often based on the environment they're in. So it wasn't just some random game, but it had significance with the story being told. The mini games that were added were fairly believable to the story, except for the ones where you're in car chases, where you have to maneuver back and forth on the road trying not to hit other cars. This had a very high difficulty level, and the fact that you didn't die after the first crash was just crazy. As you experience some of the stories, you can unlock perks, which will make it easier to get through them, like being able to pick locks, get more energy, or hack devices. It was very impressive all the different environments they made for the stories, as you're almost always going to a different location, with the exception of the last 9 miles. That's always the same. However, the whole time I was exploring the environments and talking to the people, I started to get convinced that the whole game takes place in the Postal 2 universe. It had the same feel to it. It wouldn't have shocked me if the Postal Dude just showed up out of nowhere. I do have to wonder why there are so many mobile homes, but also a lot of open spaces. Where are all the actual homes? Everything feels empty in between, and it really doesn't feel like the world is lived in. Now, some of the situations for your characters that you get into stretch believability to the farthest degree. I know the need to find ways to keep a few of the characters in the story, but do I believe that a runaway teenager would hop on a motorcycle with 2 masked men? Or when you're in a stolen car, pick up a very creepy man? No one would ever do this! For the most part, the writing was really good, but it had a really hard time doing transitions. Almost always the character would just randomly say, "Do you want to ask me anything?" Even if it makes no sense in the moment. They just want to bring up a plot point, but they can't think of a good way to do it. It was just weird whenever it happened. The way you highlight what you want to say was a little difficult. You had to maneuver a cursor to what you want, and when the person starts to move, it can get a little bit annoying to try to get to the conversation option you want to do. One of the biggest issues I had with the game was the blandness of the characters that we're actually controlling. They would give you a list of 3 people for you to choose from. All they tell you is their ages, how long they've been missing, money on hand, energy levels, and how far they are from the border. And that's it. They don't even show you a picture. They don't give you any way to connect emotionally with the person that you're playing as. I mean, I get why they're very generic because they have to plug them into every story, but at least give them some personality. Your character is just a nameless person who is only there to advance the plot around them, and that sucks. Now, this title is fully voice acted, which is outstanding. Also, the music was really good in it, and the songs did a great job of capturing the atmosphere. Road 96 was an interesting game. They did a great job of making me care about the 7 main people that you run into, not so much about the character that you're actually controlling. The randomness of the stories is an interesting gimmick, and I think it works well. I just wish there was more than 7 main characters because it's silly that we keep running into them. Now, this is normally $19.99, and I say wait for it to go on sale. It was enjoyable, but with its very little replay value, since you'll be just experiencing the same stories over again, if you want to pick this up, I would say anytime it's on sale, it's worth it.